Hey, Roger Martin here from Billings, Montana. Maria's usually had some pretty good tips, so I want to see what she's got to say about how to avoid three common legal mistakes small business owners make.
I'll tell you what's going on. There's a topic that hardly anybody talks about, and it is so important. In fact, it's so important that if you don't get it handled, it's the kind of thing that can take you and your business out. What I'm talking about is how to protect yourself legally, especially if you're an artist, creator, or entrepreneur. Now, y'all know I am not a lawyer, and nor do I play one on Marie TV. However, I have brought an amazing attorney in today who's going to help me out. And this woman is incredible. She's one of our B School grads. She is so smart, and she's someone that I turn to when I need legal advice and counsel. Joan Williams' story began 15 years ago as a background vocalist for independent artists, and it took a fortuitous turn when she was not credited or compensated for her work. As a result, she's committed her life to educating and protecting artists and entrepreneurs through her work as a lawyer and business advisor through her companies, J.A. Williams Law, the Artist Empowerment Firm, and Artist Empowerment Group. Her clients include Grammy-nominated musicians, award-winning coaches, talk show hosts, international speakers, and best-selling authors.
Now, she got taken, so evidently she became a law lawyer, and she is fired up about making sure people are not going to be screwed up or screwed over in their entrepreneurship or their artwork or things that they should have rights to.
Joan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Marie. It's so great to be here.
Well, I'll tell you, I have wanted to cover this topic for a long time because we get a lot of questions about it. And I know it's a very big subject area. And of course, we could sit here for days, but we ain't going to do that. We're going to keep it focused today about three main areas, really the most important areas that we need to get handled legally if we want to move ahead and really have a strong legal foundation. So the first is choosing the right business structure. What do we need to know, Jonay, about choosing the right business structure? How do we make that decision?
Well, first of all, Marie, I'll just tell you, there are lots of misconceptions about this. Most people think that you should just jump and just register whatever. But the bottom line is that the most important thing that you need to know about having a business structure is that it protects your personal assets from the debts and liabilities of your company. So it's basically putting a shield around you personally and allowing your company to contract with your clients or provide services and things like that. So you really want to make sure that you pick the right one for you, and you don't want to just jump to an LLC. And that's what most people do. They think, oh, business structure, perfect, I'll just go register an LLC. But that might not be the best option for you because it depends on your tax situation. You may have kids, you may have other assets, your company might want to grow to a different level.
Right.
So you really should just talk to an accountant and a lawyer to decide which one is best for you.
Okay, so she's saying an LLC isn't always the best choice. In many cases, it may be. I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer, but she says talk to your tax accountant and a lawyer to find out what is really best for you.
I love that. And just coming back to my own story, when I first started, I was terrified to even talk to a lawyer because I felt like, oh, I can't afford that. So that's actually what I did, was talk to my accountant. And that was the best thing that I did because exactly as you said, we went through my specific tax situation. And he also asked me about, where do I see the company going? And that's how we made that decision. So I love that. So for people watching, it doesn't have to cost that much money, right? I know that money is always the big thing. That was my big thing. Oh, I can't afford it. So when it comes to choosing your business structure, if you can't necessarily afford to go to a lawyer right now, so an accountant is a good choice.
I think that is a really great option. If you decide that you can't afford to have a lawyer work with you, then yes, talk to an accountant if you're strapped for cash. And the most important entities that give you the legal shield are the C corp, the S corp, and the LLC. So you want to speak to your
So those are the three that she's mentioned: the C corp, LLC, and the S corp. C corp, S corp, and LLC.
accountant and find out specifically which one would actually work for you based on your tax situation. But I want to talk about a little bit about the misconception about it being a lawyer being a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know that's what holds so many of us back from even thinking that we can get all this stuff handled
Yes.
is I can't afford it. So what do you have to
Absolutely.
say to people if that's their excuse?
Well, As you know, in our industry, it's often that people want to pay for solving a problem versus prevention,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, and that's all of us. We all when the stuff hits the fan, then
That's when we're ready to pay. Of course. I
Right.
mean, it happens like, I didn't want my dog to go pay for him to prevent him to get fleas, but once he got fleas, I spent hundreds of dollars
All
to get
over
rid
it.
of them, and now, of course, I want to prevent them from ever happening again. So same thing.
Yes, absolutely. And so I like to liken it to if you have a car, for example, you want to pay for regular oil changes, tire rotations, and things like that so that your engine doesn't break down.
Right.
So that's going to cost you a lot more money than if you were to just pay for preventative care. Or if you go to the doctor, for example, instead of going when you're getting sick, just going regularly and getting your checkups and making sure that your health is okay. It's
Yeah.
the same thing with having a lawyer for your business because your business is its own entity.
Yep.
So it needs to be taken care of, right? So it needs to have that legal health. So you want to make sure that you have a lawyer on your team, kind of like a doctor for your business.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. And that analogy, because think about it, and I know this, as the business gets bigger, if you don't have the right legal foundation in place, something happening legally can be fatal.
Yes.
For your business.
Absolutely.
It can totally take you out.
And I actually had a client come to me a long time ago, and this was the situation that happened with her. She didn't get the right advising about her business structure, and she ended up paying 50% of what she made that year in taxes, and it did shut down her business.
Wow.
So it was heartbreaking for me, but luckily we were able to take care of it. But you don't want to have something like that happening just because you weren't able to talk to a lawyer or an accountant about the right business structure for you. So it's something that's really important to your business to make sure you get that handled.
Yeah. So what do we need to know about protecting our goods and services?
The thing that you need to know the most about this area is if you don't have something written down, you're creating a bunch of verbal agreements with people that have no terms. So it's really important that you have
If you don't have something written down, you're creating a bunch of verbal agreements that have no solid legal standing. I think that's what she's saying.
service agreement. And the service agreement is going
So you have to have a written service agreement when you're working with other individuals.
to outline what you're providing the person, what they're obligated to pay. You want to make sure you have your return policy clearly outlined.
Yes.
And for people who
Return policy completely outlined.
are in high risk type of professions, you want to make sure that you have some type of disclaimer because it's just as important to know what you're going to be responsible for and what you do as a service provider and what you don't do. So, for example, if you're a health coach, you want to make sure that you have some type of agreement or some type of disclaimer in there that says, hey, I'm not a therapist, I don't prescribe medication, XYZ. So these are the kind of things that you want. But it's really important that you talk to a lawyer about this part
Yes.
of it because then they'll be able to look at what are the areas that you are providing services in
Yep.
and how they can prevent against the ones that you aren't. So it's really important to make sure that you talk to an attorney about that part of it.
So do you have any idea, like a ballpark figure of what someone could expect to pay to get like a service agreement and these kind of disclaimers in place?
I think it really just depends on the lawyer because some lawyers, they charge on an hourly rate and
Yeah.
some of them charge on a flat fee. But what you want to do is interview the ones that you're thinking about hiring and then ask them what their fees are and what's associated with it. And then you can make your decision from there.
I love that. And
Now, I think there's an area here too. You can, for a fee, use legal services and prepaid legal. And I'm thinking about looking at prepaid legal for a way for people that are already in business to get access to lawyers to help them in their business.
I love this idea of interviewing several lawyers because I've worked with many in my career, and I wish I would have done more of that because you can really get a good sense of how people interact and all that
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely.
So perfect
And
answer.
It's a relationship. So you want to make sure that if this person is going to be the general counsel in your business and they're going to help you with developing your business and understanding what you need as you grow,
Yeah.
you want to make sure you have the right person doing that. So it's important to interview.
Okay, so our final area today is about business relationships, and I think this is the one that you are the most passionate about. So what do we need to do to handle ourselves legally with our team or anyone that we're doing business with?
Well, Marie, this is one of the areas that I absolutely love talking about because so often it is missed in our industries, especially when you're an online entrepreneur. You are hiring VAs, you're hiring different team members, and it's so important to make sure that all of your business and that your personal information is protected.
Yes.
So you're exposing them to passwords, client records, all kinds of
Credit
credit cards.
cards, yes.
So it's really important that you have some type of agreement in place that makes sure that they are not going to take that information and distribute it outside of your company. So
Now that's powerful and that's important. You want to make sure those partners are not taking that information, distributing it outside of the company. Wow. Buyer beware, owner beware. Wow.
you need to have some type of independent contractors agreement.
Yes.
And you need to make sure that it has a non-disclosure in it. And that means that you come into my business and you can't take anything outside of my business when you leave.
Yes. Thanks, sweet heaven.
Non-disclosure agreement. So non-disclosure agreements are important because you're saying, come into my business, work with me. It stays in my business, and legally you can't take it outside of my business, towards your own business or somewhere else, someone else.
You know, I remember a little while ago when I first started getting all of my NDAs in place, you know, I breathed a sigh of relief because I felt terrified. You know, there's a lot of sensitive information, a lot of like new projects and ideas and book things. And, you know, I know it maybe not is the best thing in the world that, you know, some of us, I'm like, oh God, what if that gets out?
Right.
But it made me feel so much better and always makes me feel so much better.
It's so true. And also when you're an online entrepreneur, most of us don't have the privilege of seeing our teams or
Yes.
bringing them or flying them in.
Yes.
So you really need to make sure that you have the right people in place. And how you ensure that, take a preventative measure, so to speak,
Yeah.
is to make
Okay, so she talks about having the right team, the right people in place, but not only getting the right people in place, but making sure they have NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, that are signed before they work with you, so they know exactly where they're at legally and what stays in your company and does not go outside. Good advice.
sure that you have something that they're signing that makes sure that they understand what it is that they're going to be providing you for services,
Yep.
how you're going to terminate the contract in the event that they don't work out.
Right.
And all of these various different things like protecting your IP, for example. So it's really important to have that. And the other thing, if you're in the United States, if you're planning on paying someone over $600 in a given year, you want to make sure that you get their W-9 form as well, because you're going to have to issue them what they call a 1099 form at the end of the year so you can write that income off that you paid them.
Right.
And it's really important that you do that because
So taxes and legally where you stand and having that 1099 form and so forth, 1099 form, whatever else she said. You got to know business and how to do it right.
you want as much money as you can get in your business, and
Yes.
you want to keep it and you don't want to pay it to Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
So
you want to keep it all tight and right and above
Exactly.
board. And obviously, W-9s, that's appropriate for contract-based workers, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And also, what I always tell people to do is get the stuff right up front. Like as soon as somebody comes to you
Yeah.
and they want to work with you and you're like, great, this is going to be a great relationship. I want to work with you. First thing you do is send them the independent contractors agreement and then send them a W-9 to fill out. Because if the relationship doesn't work out and you decide that you don't want to hire them or you don't want to use them anymore
Yeah.
and you want to fire them, it's going to be really hard for you to get that form afterwards. So
That's
set it
like a
up.
pro tip.
Yes.
That's a total pro tip. I love it. Get it up front.
Get it up front.
You heard it. Play this again. All little tidbits really good.
Jonay, thank you so much for being here today. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much, Marie. It was so much fun.
So
All right, there we are. I'll leave it there. Great little tips from Marie. She's pretty sharp. Good day.